Honestly, I'm gonna tell you the truth. There's something which I need to come clean with. Like, yeah, original plan was that we're gonna move in with the parents because they're gonna help financially. But after a couple of months, I don't know what happened. They stopped paying. So for that, I took some loans.
No, he didn't discuss it, he just did it. He doesn't respect me enough. That's a lot of money.
I didn't tell Jenny about this loan because she will not understand that why I was paying, and she will get mad.
I don't even know why we're in marriage therapy if you don't even care about being honest.
Sumit did not walk into group therapy with a small confession. He admitted that Jenny believed moving in with his parents would reduce their financial pressure, while he had secretly taken out somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 in loans after his parents stopped contributing to rent. Because this is not just a story about money. It is a story about who gets a voice in a marriage, who makes the final decision, and what happens when one partner decides that avoiding an argument matters more than telling the truth. Jenny learned, in front of a therapist and the other couples, that a major financial decision had been made without her knowledge. And the questions pile up fast. Where did all that money go? Was it one loan or several? How long had Sumit been hiding it? What was the repayment plan? Why did his parents stop paying? And why did Sumit believe Jenny's expected anger gave him permission to remove her from the decision? This is where the story becomes much bigger than one loan. Jenny and Sumit's relationship began with a fake identity, survived the discovery of a secret marriage, endured years of family opposition, and kept circling back to the same pattern. Sumit fears confrontation, hides information, waits until the situation becomes impossible to reverse, and then explains that he was under pressure. So was Sumit protecting his parents? Was he protecting Jenny? Or was he really protecting himself from having a conversation where Jenny might say no? Because if that is the pattern, then the hidden debt is not the main problem. The main problem is that Jenny may still not have equal power in her own marriage. When Sumit finally admitted what happened, he explained that the original plan was simple. He and Jenny would move in with his parents, and his parents would help financially. On paper, that sounds practical. Jenny and Sumit had been struggling. Their cafe had failed. Their finances were under pressure. Moving in with family was presented as a way to stabilize the situation. But then, according to Sumit, his parents stopped paying after a couple of months. Instead of sitting down with Jenny and saying, "This arrangement is no longer working," he borrowed money. Not a few $100s. Not a small emergency amount. He described loans totaling roughly $15,000 to $20,000. Jenny's immediate response was not only panic. It was humiliation. She said he did not respect her enough to discuss it with her. And honestly, that reaction makes sense because she was learning about a major financial secret in a group therapy setting. She did not get a private conversation. She did not get time to process it. She got a public reveal with everyone staring at her while Sumit tried to explain why he had kept her in the dark. Sumit's explanation was that Jenny would not understand and would get mad. But that answer actually makes the situation worse. When someone says, "I did not tell you because you would be angry," what they are really admitting is that they knew you would object. And instead of giving you the chance to object, they made the decision anyway. That is not a communication failure. That is a deliberate choice to avoid communication because the conversation might change the outcome. There are probably three motivations working together here. The first is conflict avoidance. Sumit knew that telling Jenny the truth might lead to a huge argument. She might demand that they move out. She might refuse to support his parents financially. She might ask questions he did not have good answers for. So, he delayed the confrontation. The second motivation is family loyalty. Sumit has spent years trying to repair his relationship with his parents after they rejected his relationship with Jenny. Once they finally accepted the marriage, he may have felt terrified of disappointing them again. If paying the rent was the price of maintaining peace with his family, he may have convinced himself that he had no real choice. And the third motivation is control. By borrowing the money first and telling Jenny later, Sumit made sure his preferred outcome happened before she could interfere. The family stayed in the home. The bills were covered. The immediate crisis disappeared. But Jenny lost her ability to participate in the decision. That is the hidden power issue in this marriage. When Jenny's needs and his parents' needs collide, does Jenny actually get an equal vote? Or does Sumit decide privately, manage the consequences, and inform her after the decision is already locked in? And this is not happening in a relationship with a clean history. Jenny is not reacting to one isolated mistake. She is reacting to years of accumulated secrecy. Sumit first entered her life under a false identity. Then Jenny learned he was already married. Later, he hid major decisions from his parents to protect his relationship with Jenny. He married Jenny without telling them because he expected them to interfere. Now he has hidden loans from Jenny because he expected her to object. The target changes. Sometimes he hides the truth from Jenny. Sometimes he hides it from his family. But the method stays almost exactly the same. He anticipates rejection, avoids the conversation, makes the decision privately, reveals the truth after it becomes difficult to reverse, and then explains that he was trapped by circumstances. But the problem with that strategy is that it creates short-term peace by destroying long-term trust. Jenny sees marriage as a primary partnership. She moved to India. She gave up a large amount of independence. She has talked openly about struggling with language, transportation, and the practical realities of building a life in another country. Sumit is not only her husband. He is also her connection to the local system, his family, and many everyday decisions. That gives him more power than he may even realize. When he controls financial information, Jenny is not simply uninformed. She is financially vulnerable in a country where she already depends on him for many things. At the same time, it is fair to acknowledge the pressure on Sumit. He may feel responsible for Jenny because she moved her entire life for him. He may also feel responsible for his parents because of his cultural and family obligations. That can create a situation where he believes everyone needs something from him and nobody will accept the answer they do not want. But pressure explains behavior. It does not automatically excuse it. Sumit's strongest defense is cultural duty. He wants Jenny to understand how family responsibility works in India. And that deserves a fair discussion. Supporting parents is not automatically manipulation. Multi-generational living is not automatically unhealthy. Many families around the world share expenses, housing, caregiving, and responsibilities in ways that are completely normal within their culture. But cultural responsibility answers one question: why did helping his parents matter so much to Sumit? It does not answer the other question: why did he finance that help secretly? Respecting family tradition and demanding honesty in marriage are not opposites. Sumit could have said, I believe I must help my parents, and we need to decide together how much we can afford. That would still have been a difficult conversation. Jenny might have resisted. They might have argued. But at least both people would have known the reality. Instead, he appears to have treated Jenny's anger as the problem rather than asking what would make her angry. And what would make her angry is obvious. The plan was supposed to save money. Somehow, that plan allegedly produced hidden debt. That contradiction is enormous. They moved in with his parents because they needed financial help. Then the parents stopped contributing. Then Sumit borrowed money to keep the arrangement going. So the solution to the financial crisis may have created a larger financial crisis. And because Jenny did not know, she could not even evaluate whether staying there still made sense. This also raises practical questions that the episode did not answer. Was it one loan or multiple loans? Sumit said some loans, which matters. What interest rates were attached? How much is still owed? Was every dollar used for rent? Was any of it connected to the failed cafe? How much income did Sumit expect to use for repayment? Does Jenny have access to the records? Is she legally connected to any of the debt? Those questions are not accusations. They are the basic questions any married person would ask after discovering hidden debt. Reality television loves the dramatic number, but apparently a repayment schedule is too terrifying for prime time. The family dynamic makes everything even more complicated. For years, Sumit's parents were presented as the main obstacle to the relationship. Jenny and Sumit fought for their acceptance. They eventually got married. His father offered support. His mother eventually softened. That should have reduced the pressure. Instead, their acceptance increased their involvement. Now the parents are connected to the couple's housing, their finances, their daily routine, and Sumit's sense of obligation. The marriage has become a triangle. Jenny asks Sumit to prioritize their independence. His parents represent belonging, duty, and the family connection he nearly lost. Sumit tries to avoid choosing between them. And every time he refuses to choose openly, he makes a hidden choice anyway. This time, he chose to protect the housing arrangement and his parents from immediate consequences. Jenny found out later. So even though Sumit may say he is trying to keep everyone together, the result is that Jenny feels pushed outside the decision-making process. There are really two trust problems now. The first is that Jenny cannot trust the information Sumit gives her. She believed the move had one financial structure. It apparently had another. The second problem is more dangerous. She cannot trust that she will be consulted before the next major decision involving housing, employment, caregiving, family support, or future debt. If Sumit tells her only after a crisis is complete, she is not participating in the marriage. She is receiving updates. And viewers are divided about who deserves the most sympathy. Some fans feel this is simply the latest proof that Sumit has not changed. They see the loan as part of the same pattern that began with catfishing and the hidden marriage. From that perspective, Jenny's anger is not about one secret. It is the emotional weight of every previous secret arriving at the same time. Many viewers are saying that Jenny has forgiven so much that Sumit may no longer believe any betrayal will truly end the relationship. He may apologize, show emotion, explain the pressure, and expect that the relationship will survive because it always has. That does not make Jenny responsible for his choices. But forgiveness without new boundaries can restore peace without changing the pattern. A different section of the audience believes Jenny sometimes ignores the reality of the life she chose. She moved to India, married into a family-centered culture, and remains heavily dependent on Sumit. These viewers argue that she wants to be treated as his only priority while also expecting him to carry most of the practical responsibility. That criticism is not completely baseless, but it can also become unfair very quickly. Choosing to live in India does not mean agreeing to hidden debt. Accepting a family-oriented culture does not mean surrendering the right to financial transparency. And depending on your spouse in a foreign country makes honesty more important, not less important. Then there is a third group of viewers who simply believe the financial story is incomplete. Some fans are questioning how Sumit qualified for that amount of money, what it actually funded, why the number is approximate, and why there is no clear repayment plan. A section of the audience suspects production may have simplified the story for television. That remains a fan theory, not a confirmed fact. There is no verified evidence that the debt was invented, but missing details naturally create skepticism. The deeper issue is that Jenny and Sumit both appear trapped in repeating cycles. Sumit's cycle is secrecy. He predicts conflict, avoids the conversation, acts alone, reveals the truth later, and asks for understanding. Jenny's cycle is emotional breaking point, ultimatum, apology, reconciliation, and then another version of the same structural problem. And that is what makes this storyline more serious than a dramatic therapy moment. The couple does not need another promise. They need structure. They need complete disclosure of every loan and financial account. They need a written monthly budget. They need clear limits on how much money can go to family support. They need an agreement that neither person can take on major debt without the other person's approval. They need a realistic housing plan. And they need to define what happens the next time Sumit's parents need help. Because that moment will come. Family obligations do not disappear because a therapist asks a difficult question. The real test is what Sumit does when helping his parents requires disappointing Jenny again. My prediction is that Jenny will threaten to leave or demand major changes, but she will not immediately end the marriage. Their history suggests that they are deeply attached and very skilled at surviving crises, even when they are not equally skilled at solving them. I also think the conflict will shift away from the exact dollar amount and toward the question of priority. Jenny will want proof that being his wife gives her meaningful influence. Sumit will probably insist that he cannot abandon his parents. Both of them will be talking about love, but the real argument will be about authority. I would not be surprised if Sumit promises complete transparency. The harder question is whether he sets a boundary with his parents. A promise to tell Jenny next time is not enough if he still believes the final responsibility is his alone. The loan details may also remain vague. Unless later episodes reveal the lender, repayment terms, and how the money was spent, viewers will keep questioning whether the explanation makes sense. The less information the show provides, the more fan theories will fill the gap. Human beings see an empty space and immediately build a conspiracy condominium inside it. There is also a serious real-life reason financial stability matters now. Jenny publicly revealed that she was diagnosed with ALS in December 2025. That should not be turned into sensational content, and we should not assume Sumit knew about the diagnosis when this episode was filmed unless the timeline is confirmed. But in the present day, health, caregiving, legal planning, and financial transparency are more important than ever for this couple. That makes hidden debt even more concerning in the long term. Medical uncertainty requires clear records, realistic planning, and trust. It cannot be managed through last-minute confessions. In the end, the loans created financial danger, but the secrecy created marital danger. Sumit may genuinely love Jenny. He may genuinely love his parents. He may honestly feel trapped between two responsibilities. But every time he avoids choosing openly, he still makes a choice. He chooses who gets protected first, who gets told later, and who has to absorb the consequences. Jenny now has to decide whether another apology is enough. Is she looking at one terrible decision, or proof that Sumit still manages their marriage by controlling information? And Sumit has to prove that honesty is not something he offers only after the truth becomes impossible to hide. The unresolved questions are still huge. What did the loans actually fund? How much is still owed? Why did his parents stop contributing? Did Jenny have any legal exposure? What is the repayment plan? And what boundary will exist the next time family duty collides with their marriage? So here's the real question. Was Sumit genuinely trapped between his wife and his parents? Or did he use that pressure as an excuse to make a decision he knew Jenny would never approve?